Welcome back to The Infinite Life. I am very excited to see my friend Isaya Gabriel. Isaya Gabriel is a spiritual writer and mixed media artist, a traveling priestess and a tech witch, a goddess teacher and a goddess life coach, that is, a magico-pragmatic inspirationalist. Deeply rooted in the wisdom of the Greek goddess archetypes, she holds space for women, especially those carrying weight of past wounds or trauma who've been told they are too much or not enough. With compassion and clarity, she guides them to reclaim their voice, radiate their essence, and rise with confidence. Her core mission is to live a goddess life daily, undeterred, and to inspire, uplift, and empower others to contribute to the collective rising of the planet's vibration. For over 20 years, both online and in person, she's worked with the Divine Feminine and facilitated women's circles, red tents, artist workshops, and sacred retreats around the world. Welcome back to the podcast, Isaya.
Hi, I'm so happy to be back. I'm
It's
so
like,
glad to
ooh.
talk to you again.
Yes, it's wonderful to have you on the other side of the camera now. Isaiah has been a colleague and a friend of mine since 2000 was when I met you, Isaiah. And you have been one of those souls who is a teacher in your soul nature. And so you have come on the podcast in various different episodes as a guest who has gone through an experience. And we'll leave that up to people to go find that for themselves. But
do go, they're amazing.
Yeah, we've had some fun.
Experiences were amazing.
We've had some fun. I think my favorite was with Banana Bangles. It was my favorite
me too.
person to come so far, which is one of Isaiah's guides. Isaiah has been working with the Divine Feminine for a very long time. I have been working with the Divine Feminine in my channeling, but never the Greek goddesses. So my first question for you, Isaiah, is what's your earliest memory or experience with the goddesses in any form?
It's going to be the Greek ones, my earliest, and it's going to be very early. We're talking 3 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because the thing is, I'm Greek, right?
Yes.
Or at least I'm half Greek. My mother is Greek and all my mother lineage is Greek. My father was from Switzerland. So I'm an only child. And my parents had this weird idea of becoming hippies, which meant I lived in the communes. I had the weirdest hippie life as a child. And which also meant that my parents, who were both architects, decided to not be architects anymore and to live off the land or whatever. Basically, we had no money. No money meant I had not many toys. I was not like a spoiled child. I'm not complaining here, but that was my life. So I had a couple of dolls, and that was it, basically. Secondhand, both of them, I think. One thing that I did have, though, was stories. My mom was, we didn't have that many books either at that time. I'm old, so I'm almost 60 years old, so basically we did not have that many children's books at the time either. But what we did have was the stories of the Greek mythology, which my mother, being Greek, had taught and learned and read and painted. She's a painter. And so she was telling me those stories. And those stories were integrated into my life. The way people are told or children are told fairy tales, I was told Greek mythology. With the blood and everything.
Okay.
And the incest and everything.
Right.
But anyway, the Greeks are, the Greek mythology is not for the faint of heart. So the personas of the gods and the goddesses were very familiar to me as a child. So I had two dolls. One of them was Artemis and the other was Aphrodite, very clearly. And the Artemis one was always dressed in green, and she would always want to go outside and live in the country and in the forest, etc. And the other was dressed as a princess, and she wanted tiaras, or at least that's what I gave them as a personality. And so I played with when I was bored with those two, I exchanged them and I had an Athena doll. So basically, I get to know these goddesses, and mostly the women because my dolls were female. I got to know them like friends. I was an only child, so I was also bored. I have a very vivid imagination, and creativity. So I used to sew them dresses that would fit the personas, not at 3 years old, but at 7 or 8 or 9. So basically, I spent my childhood with them. Plus, we moved all over the place because of the hippie thing, which meant my friends were not very stable either. But those goddesses, they were there all the time. And as a child, I did not have a clear conscience that they were, that I was channeling them, basically. But I was. I realized that age 45. So in between my childhood and age 45, they were just there in the background. And then when I started working with the Divine Feminine around my 40s, obviously they rang a little bell in my head. And Hera or Hestia, I think Hestia was the main one, she came and said, "Oh, now you're thinking about us again. Hey, you forgot about us all this time. Nice of you to play and discuss with Archangel Michael, but what the fuck? What about us?" And they insisted on being part of the game again, or having these conversations. And after a few years of working with, obviously, because I'm not going to go into that because this is not the topic, but for some reason I was very interested in anything feminine. I had to reconnect with the Divine Feminine that I'd completely ignored for 35 or 40 years. I was this very successful, no gender person. I was not a man, I was not a woman, I was just efficient, basically, and being a mother and everything. So I had to reconnect with that feminine part of myself, and so with the Divine Feminine. So I started investigating, and I started with the Greek ones because they were there. But then I went further and went into various pantheons, and I spent a lot of time studying, playing with oracle decks, having conversations in my head or outside my head, but with anyone who would answer me, basically. And so I found out that although I can connect with many visions of the Divine Feminine, because basically there's one Divine Feminine and it has many aspects or visions, and we call them goddesses, but or whatever you call them. I call them goddesses. The Greek ones are still the most familiar ones. I know them. They're familiar. My son, both my sons have Greek gods' names as second name, so hidden in there is a Greek god, and it's like, they're family.
Fabulous, fabulous. And when you turned 45 and you started to work with the Divine Feminine, and then you had these conversations with the Greek goddesses and started to get to know them again, what is the most empowering way that they helped you in your life? Help might be the wrong word, but there was something obviously that was this urge to reconnect with them again. And what did that focus bring into your life?
What became obvious, and again, it's not like I chose any of this consciously, like I'm going to do this, but is that every one of these 8 in particular goddesses that I was feeling such a deep connection with had what I'm going to call an archetype, but you could call a sphere of interest. And that I felt that every time I worked or connected in that sphere or with that archetype, it was helping me solve my issues, heal, get past trauma, or get in touch with a part of me that felt unloved, felt ignored, felt hidden. And I found out after a few deep studies, let's put it this way, that this created a kind of a system. So if I could visit each archetype like you would visit a country, and really connect with that archetype and listen to their advice, to their suggestions, to their angry remarks sometimes that would help me on my way. And I came up with this idea that if it helps me, maybe it can help others, which is the next evolution. But I felt like there were bits that were completely unloved, bits of me, and that each of these goddesses could bring someone to the light first for me to see which part, and then help me out. If I take an example, I'm going to go with Gaia. Gaia is obviously the Greek representation of the planet Earth. It actually means Earth in Greek. Gaia means Earth. And she's the great grandmother, right? She's the creator of everything. She is the equivalent, literally in the Greek pantheon and mythology, she created the masculine. Masculine, there is no god that opened up the skies and created, and there will be light. She created the world out of chaos, and the first thing that she did was create a partner for herself, Father Sky, so they could have a good time, basically. So for me, she was adamant that I had to reconnect my body to the earth. So she gave me very grandmotherly advice, loud, very loud, about going outside, about spending time in nature, about taking my shoes off and really connecting with the ground, about sitting in the ground, about being okay with the wild, not in a dangerous way, but just with the part of me that was not civilized, that was chaotic, that was before everything else, before politeness and civilization, and that it was okay to be that, to have a part of me that is like that, and to dance crazily, or to sleep outside under the sky, and I started doing, because for me a lot of the connection with the archetypes and for feeling this love and this connection is in the doing. It's not, or in the being, but actually not about thinking about it. It's about actually in the body, embodying, as in literally incarnating the thing. So if I want to connect with Aphrodite, I'm going to be looking for some water. I'm going to be looking for sea. No, water to plunge myself in.
Oh, okay.
You can do that with a glass of water, but it's more difficult. But rivers, seas, anything that the mermaid attitude would be Aphrodite for me. Every time I need to reconnect there, if I feel that I want to connect with Artemis, I would need a forest. The image that is behind your head, immediately for me, that was an Artemis thing. It was like, okay, reminded that, I haven't been in a forest for a while. That's why I'm guessing behind Katische is that image for me to see. That's why I call myself a magical pragmatic inspirationalist. It's not about thinking about the things. Thinking about the things doesn't change my life, and it doesn't change anybody's life. It's when we do it. And in the very little things, I started reconnecting. Like, another example would be Hestia, who is the goddess of the sacred flame and the hearth. Hestia, the Greek goddess, her Roman equivalent is called Vesta, and she had some priestesses, the Vestals. Many people know about them. She had no temple, because basically any hearth anywhere was her temple. So in every temple, there was, in the temple to Zeus, a temple to Athena, there was a hearth that was dedicated to Hestia. And her priestesses were migratory, and they were going from one temple to another to tend to the sacred fires of Hestia. If in Rome, if one of those fires were to extinguish, to basically stop burning, because they didn't reach it in time to add more wood or oil or whatever, the priestess would be executed, like all of them. And that is for me a very vivid reminder every time I tell this story or I think this story, that if we do not tend to our sacred fire, to our sacred flame, to our inner hearth of who am I, really deep inside. And if we do not take care of that, who am I, we literally die.
Mm.
So, yeah, that's the way I connect with them. And so they first it was, how do you say that, a touristic visit. So I went into one and the other. Now they pop up when needed, when necessary. Or I decide, okay, ooh, it's been a long time since I've been discussing with my emotions. Let me see what Hera has to say about that. Or feel like I need to connect with my wild side, like the one that roams the woods. Artemis might give me a hand. So I have playlists for music that help me, and I've created an ecosystem with all these kind of goddesses around me. And there's more, obviously, than the 8 Greek goddesses that I really work daily with. But this would take too long if I went through all of this. And I do feel, to an extent, people talk about guardian angels. I think I have those 8 guardian goddesses, but they are slightly less kind.
Okay.
They kick your ass. My ass, at least. It's not that they don't love me. I think it's absolutely about love, about feeling loved. But it is also about, they don't play games. They're very straightforward. And
Right.
when they, or when I see, or whatever you want to call it, when I feel that I've been disconnected from a part of me, they will appear and wave a red flag of, hey, what the fuck are you doing here?
Okay. Can you explain to me, how would Hera connect with somebody who's
So
going
Hera
through strong
is,
emotions?
so Hera is the wife of Zeus, right? She is the queen of the goddesses, and she is commonly very misconceived as a very angry goddess, because basically Zeus is cheating with every other mortal or goddess that he finds around, and she's constantly, in all the tales, she's constantly angry. And for me, that is a reminder that she doesn't know very well how to deal with her emotions. But we can learn that. And being constantly angry is not going to get me anywhere. So I connect with reverse image. How do you say that? It's, do not do the Hera,
Oh,
basically.
okay. Yep.
Learn to, I have to learn to express my emotions, to, first of all, to recognize them. Because actually, Hera is mostly sad because her husband doesn't love her
Okay.
enough to not cheat. Sadness is very often hiding behind her anger. And I
Yes.
think that's one of the lessons of Hera. The
Yes.
other thing that Hera teaches a lot is something around commitment, because despite the fact that her husband is a cheater, she still stays there, and she is the Greek goddess of family. So for me, she's also a reminder that it's important to connect with that commitment and to remember that if I made a choice to commit to something, and that something can be myself, commit to my own healing, for instance, or my own. If I say I'm going to be stopping my day's work at 5 p.m. and I don't do that, I betray myself every chance that I get, or I betray other people. And so Hera teaches us that commitment has nothing to do with the other person. It's something that I do for myself, and then I
Okay.
can become trustworthy with me, for instance. And the third aspect that is very important with Hera, so it's about, as I said, first one is understanding your emotions, so really digging deep around that, and ask her for help. She's been working over the centuries to get better herself. So, in the same way that people connect with, as I was saying, angels, archangels, you can connect with the goddess and just ask her for information, for help, for a gift, an idea of what to do around, for instance, understanding your emotions, or the commitment thing. And the third thing is she's the queen. So she also invites us to enter the queendom, to finally, for many women, own the fact that we are queens. And what I mean by that is I am the queen of my own queendom, which is this body, and around it, this is me, it's mine, and I do what the fuck I want in there. Sometimes I do stupid things or mistakes, but it's still owning the fact that I'm a self-led person, I'm a queen of whatever happens. It doesn't happen to me, I make things happen for me. Including the shit things. Let's put it this way. So that's really the Hera's got this mountain energy, like she's there and she doesn't move. This is her queendom. She will not be pushed aside. She will not be abused. She will, even if she's cheated upon, she will get angry, but she will not be diminished or made small, made to feel small. And this is so important for women today, to remember that being the queen of your own queendom is basically based on a decision to, this is my boundaries, I'm not moving from this. So yeah, that's Hera for you if you want her. The emotions are not limited to Hera. As I was saying, Aphrodite is very much a water goddess, and also she's very much about teaching us that emotions can be flowy and generous, and also that emotions, as we all know, has the word motion, so they have to move, flow. Artemis is very much about expressing her emotions as well, including the angry ones, or the violent, not nice ones, in a safe way. And again, Hera as well. I think that's the characteristic of an archetype. It's more than a symbol. They have several aspects to them, each of them. And also, because they've been here for 6,000 years or something, at least, I hereby give you permission to make them your own and decide what part of Artemis you need in your life. You might not need the same part as I do. We each can have an individual connection, and it's the same with if I create a meditation that I make you visualize that you meet Artemis or you meet Persephone, you're going to have an image in your head. It's not the same image as me. It doesn't mean that one of us is wrong.
Yeah. And so I don't know why this came to mind, Isaiah, but in Australia, and I don't think it's just Australia experiencing this, but we have gone through a very bad period of deaths, for public deaths of women by their husbands. So a very big spate of domestic violence here in Australia. It's unimaginable. There's some ridiculous statistic about how often an Australian woman dies at the hands of her husband or partner. What I get from the feeling of what you've been saying about these Greek goddesses is they're not soft and fluffy. So if you are in a situation, and there may be a listener out there, and you need a protective force or a force to rise with you to help you in a situation where there is external anger and you feel helpless and you need to change but also protect yourself, like a bit like somebody might use an angel to say, come shelter me, like Archangel Michael, shelter me.
I think they don't really work like angels. I love angels to death. They don't really work with angels, as in they would. I think the goddesses would rather would more be help you to get out of it instead of protect you. And in that regard, I think there's one goddess that I haven't spoken about at all, and I'm going to now, and that's the goddess Persephone. So Persephone is, for me, the one goddess that I feel every woman has to go through, literally through. She's the maiden goddess, the spring goddess. everything is beautiful in her life, and she's a little stupid, and she gets abducted by no one else but the king of the underworld. So the bad guy, supposedly bad guy. Obviously, you have to remember that in Greek mythology, the underworld is not where bad people, when they're dead, go. Every dead person goes there. So it's like there is no heaven. Yeah, we don't have. Heaven is the Olympus, and it's only for gods. That's it.
Right. Okay.
So the underworld is every dead person. Good persons, bad persons. There's spaces for the bad persons and spaces for the good persons. So she gets abducted. She's 17 years old by Hades, who is king of the underworld, god of the underworld, god of the dead, basically. And she makes a conscious decision. It's a very subtle one, but she does decide to stay there. It's a very long story, so I'm not going to go through it, but really read it. At some point, I've got a few blog posts about her story because I think it's really important. She decides to stay in the underworld at least 6 months of the year, which means she chooses to become the queen of the underworld. So she connects then with spirit. She becomes the spirit. So from the maiden, she becomes the wife, the queen. Then she even connects with spirit. So can you see that this is the journey of any woman, basically? So Persephone, what she will teach you, and again, it's not a very fluffy teaching, is that if you just go about your day, picking daffodils, not caring about anything, shit will happen. You have to take all your responsibilities. And once she makes the decision to become the wife of Hades, because, the bad guy is attractive, bad guys, she actually becomes this queen. So she raises from the maiden to the queen, from the princess, a little stupid, let's put it this way, to become the queen. And so you were saying, what would I suggest to a person or to a woman experiencing fear around abuse? I would highly suggest that you become self-led, that you deal with the idea that things are not happening to you, that you have to take yourself and save yourself, basically. And Persephone will take your hand, and she will bring the whole of the spirit world with her, because she's queen of the dead, so she's got loads over there. And she will hold you in the darkness also. Every moment of really dark period of my life, Persephone's been there to tell me that it's all right. And as you might know, in the mythology, Persephone, 6 months of the year, lives in the underworld. She's queen of the dead, blah, blah, blah. And then the other 6 months, she's a harvest goddess. She comes outside of the underworld and lives with her mom Demeter, and so she's the harvest and spring goddess. So the idea that we can go through the dark periods of our lives, the winters of our lives, the shitty periods, and then still emerge in the springtime of our lives and become this harvest queen and literally harvest the good of our life, that's Persephone for you, basically. That's, if you dig deep in each of the myths, and there are many around each of the goddesses, you find that they can be transposed into our everyday life, and they can produce, I don't want to say advice, but yeah, kind of advice of what you can do to be that person. Demeter, so the mother of Persephone, who is goddess of harvest in general, she's the mother goddess. Fertility, creativity, etc., etc. When her daughter gets abducted by the king of the underworld, gets into such a rage and sadness that she literally kills all life on earth. And we call that winter.
Okay.
But we only call that winter because she got convinced by other gods, a bunch of other gods, mostly Hermes, but to actually be okay with the 6 months of Persephone in the underworld, which would then be winter for all of us. And then the other 6 months she would come out, and then spring and summer would happen because Demeter was so happy to see her daughter again. But they're not joking with the, I don't want to say punishment, but the consequences of actions. And that's also one of the things that I love about the goddesses. They literally will tell you, hey, if you do things, consequences will follow. If you do good things, good consequences. And their stories are inspiration. And what I really love is that, contrary to the angels, and the goddesses are very, and the gods as well, are very human. Their reactions, their stories, they're very human. So we can literally identify. Sometimes I think about mythology like I would about a TV show. You identify with the main character, and then you think, hey, would I do that? Or would I not? Hey, maybe I should do something else. Maybe I'd rather identify with this other goddess right now. I think more of Athena. We haven't talked about Athena. So Athena is goddess of wisdom and strategy and so many other things. But basically, she's the rational, cool. She never gets carried away by her emotions. She is the corporate woman. So she strategizes, planifies everything, which is a very successful role model today for women in the corporate world, Athena. Oh, if you see a successful woman in the corporate world, that would be an Athena. Because we all have all of the archetypes in us, that's my belief. But we also have some that are more prominent or dominant. My idea is that we need to create a balance between all those 8, because the prominence of or the dominance of one of the archetypes will lead you to excess, and excess is rarely making you peaceful and happy and loved or loving. So for me, the Athena archetype is very useful to, okay, chill, let me think about this. If thinking takes over, as it does a lot in our society, then we go all in our heads, no body, no heart, no soul, and then we think that we can solve everything with our brains or minds, which to my belief is completely wrong, because it's cut up from. But if we don't have the thinking, rational part of us, it's still missing. So it's a balance thing again.
If somebody is noticing that they're in their head a lot, I'm in my head a lot, and you want to connect to the heart space, who in the Greek mythology, which goddess is Artemis?
Artemis has got this dual energy. She is both a goddess of the wild, of the wilderness. So she will help you to connect in a wild way with yourself. And also she's goddess of sisterhood, weirdly enough, because one of the stories about Artemis, which is the most interesting, I think, is that she has a twin. So her twin brother is Apollo. And actually, when her mother gave birth to her first, she was the oldest one by minutes, but anyway. So she was born, and as soon as she was born, she turned around and helped her mother give birth to her brother. So, goddesses, right? She was able to be a midwife at age 2 minutes or 3 minutes. And so she is recognized as goddess of sisterhood, of midwife goddess, and children. So she's got this very strong connection, just like the heart chakra is both green, forest, and pink, heart. So is Artemis. She's got this dual energy of greenness as wilderness, as reconnecting to a part of us that is not thinking, that is literally instinct. And she's got this heart taking care of children, of other women, midwife, etc., etc. In the temples of Artemis that we have found to this day, it's the only place where you have statues of children and infants. The only temples, all the other temples, including the supposed mother goddesses or family goddess like Hera or Demeter, there are no children's statues. In all of Artemis's temples, there are children's statues that people would bring to thank because she cured my baby or whatever they thought that the goddess had done for them, for their child, or to honor, I wanted a child, and then Artemis supposedly helped me. And it's only in Artemis's temple, which is paradoxical because she's supposed to be a virgin goddess. But anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, she's, in my belief or my vision of these archetypes system, let's call it this way, or modal that I work with, there's 8 of them, and they're connected with the chakras, with the 7 chakras, but also with other chakras that are below or above those. For instance, Gaia is obviously connected with the chakra of the planet itself, not with one of ours. And then we go up, basically, and we meet each of them, and we meet Artemis in the heart chakra.
And so is this the 8 Sundays with the goddesses? Is that what's on this system? Is that what you're talking about on your website?
Yeah, it's a system that I'm not completely finished putting online, to be honest.
Okay.
I work one-to-one with this system and in my retreats, but basically it's called Rise, and the idea is that we visit each archetype. And yes, you can do that with my program called Goddess Sundays, which you can visit each archetype in turn and explore what the archetype, what this particular goddess has to say to you, what you have to say to her. So we do journaling, meditation, blah, 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 really connecting with that goddess and seeing what at this precise moment she has for me. What do you have in store for me? And I can tell you, because I've been doing that for many years, that they change their minds. Today, Artemis is going to tell me that. If I connect with her tomorrow, she might tell me something completely different. They're basically very connected to what's going on with me. Or at least it's a way of me. We all know that. I believe we are the divine. But it's a way for me to connect with this part of me, this divine part of me, through the goddesses. And to help me, I don't like to say heal, because I don't think we're all in needing of healing all the time, but to develop, grow, get to a place that I feel more happy, more peaceful, more joyful. By meeting these goddesses and asking them for their opinion and listening to their questions. They have a lot of questions.
Okay.
Why do you do that, Isaya? Why is that? How do you intend to succeed with this? And then I'm going, okay.
Yeah, it's quite different than the angels, isn't it? Yeah. We seem to have to ask a lot to get information from the angels, whereas what you're telling me is the Greek goddesses is the opposite. That's very much more.
They're very human, as I was saying. So it's almost, for me at least, it's almost like having a conversation with a friend. But a friend that has some part of knowledge that I don't. And so it's, yeah, that's why I come up, when I connect and I come up with what should I be teaching, basically, there's a lot of questions that I'm asked to ask my clients. Journaling prompts, meditation questions, very much of an investigative process, which is very loving, but it's not fluffy. Sometimes it's very direct questions.
Very interesting. You do this through retreats. I know that. I remember one year you had a retreat to Greece, which I couldn't make. Travel is also another good way to get to know the goddesses, right?
Yeah, of course. So I do the retreats because it's one way that we can visit. So I do retreats that are around 5 days, and we visit each of the archetypes during the course of the 5 days. And my plan is to have retreats, 4 retreats every year, so seasonal, so that every season we can go and revisit the archetypes. One of them is what I call the migratory retreat. So this one moves around. So this year, next year is going to be in Wales, but I hope to do a Greek one again. I'm just picking places that I love, basically, and that there is some spirituality I want to connect with. So Wales, there's a lot of stone circles and prehistoric things, Celtic things that I connect also very much about. In Greece, obviously, we also go and visit the temples and the other retreats, so the summer, autumn, and winter ones. Summer and autumn are done here at my house in France, which is actually a retreat center. It was always, but I didn't realize it. And the winter one, because it's winter, we do it from home. So it's an online one, so that we can be under our duvets. Obviously, not the same duvet because I'm in the northern hemisphere, so it's January for us. But yeah, the idea is that every retreat is an opportunity to revisit those archetypes through different activities. And some of them are very mind activities like meditation, but some of them are very practical. We do art, we do walking on the land, we do labyrinth walking. I try to create experiences for the ladies that come to work with me to really experience the meeting the goddesses and walking through this portal of having going somewhere else than they were. And that somewhere else is can be physical travel, obviously, if you come to me, but even with the online one, going somewhere else, changing. Yeah, getting familiar and okay with change, because I think that we all want something new, but so many of us don't want to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm providing, you can call them retreat, you can call them initiations or portals, or but I also encourage everyone who wants to meet the goddesses to just read the books, my posts, or there's so many ways. This is one, it's like angels and archangels, they're everywhere, right? In the movies. And sometimes I get mad because I think, how dare they represent this or that goddess in that way? And then I remember, hey, why not? They're right. I don't think, I don't agree. It's not me. The connection I have with Artemis, she said to me, no, I'm not Wonder Woman. The guys from the movies decided Wonder Woman is Diana, aka Artemis. I'm like, okay, yeah. That's my thing. That's the power of the thing, is that because they've been everywhere and because they are not connected to anything that can trigger. Because the archangels, oh, Christian, blah, 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 religion, ooh, I don't want to. So there, in mainstream movies, there are not that many archangel stories. There's a few, but whereas the Greeks, because they predate any conflict around spirituality, everyone thinks that they can use them to their advantage in books, movies, TV shows, paintings, which they're absolutely welcome to, obviously. And that means if and when you study around them, you will see all those references everywhere. You know, have you seen the Starbucks logo? And again, even when, because I'm plunged deep in that, as I was saying, the forest behind your head, immediately to me, it's Artemis talking to me. And then there's a pink flower on the other side of your head. That pink flower for me, or pink flowers, it's Aphrodite for me. Immediately, pink, Aphrodite. There is a kind, and I know it seems like a shortcut, but it's not. It's a way of experiencing messages in the same way. Some people say, oh, I see a feather, that must be an angel. So this really, the word for me is familiarity, that you can get with the divine through meeting the goddesses. And I've talked a lot about the Greek ones because they're my friends, but there's so many pantheons that are amazing. I'm studying these days the Celtic pantheon, so goddesses from Ireland, and they're so amazing. I love the Cailleach, which is the mean goddess of winter. I love the idea that you have a goddess of winter and she's mean. She's an old hag, basically. She doesn't like anyone. She wants to stay alone in her cave forever. the winter thing, right? You want to be under your duvet. You don't want to talk to anyone. And I love that. So there's so many, for somebody like me who's very imaginative, I can feel really surrounded at all times and not guided, but yeah, also guided, but poked. Hey, Isaiah, you remember that? And then it changes stuff. I've been very much triggered myself and poked by Aphrodite because she's goddess of love, right, and beauty. And I'm okay with beauty. So having being surrounded by beauty, I know does wonders for my soul. I believe that ugliness might literally kill the world and that we need to be creating more beauty. But the love thing that was difficult for me, self-love, oh my God. And she was adamant. She was like, no, you have to work on that. You have to go to the place where you're okay with saying, yes, I love myself. And it was a journey. It was a journey. It started with the pink glasses. Pink. So every time I see those pink glasses, I think Aphrodite. I think, you remember what her message is? Please, love starts with self-love. If you don't love yourself at all, how can you even pretend that you love anyone else? And so I also create those reminders or pokes. I chose the pink glasses, right? And I only wear the pink glasses in front of a computer, which means the only place where I see myself. Because most of the time I have a completely different set of glasses for real life, which are blue. Athena. You start to create. I started to create a thing where everything means something. And it's a reminder and that I am not alone. And one of the things before we close, I wanted to say that I was literally guided to create a goddess self-love oracle deck. And I printed it, and I'm really excited about this. So each goddess sent me messages. So there's 9 messages of literally practical things to show and take care of your self-love with each of goddesses' perspective, let's put it this way. And this is completely channeled. And it goes from dance to flower remedies, from organize to be of service. All the spheres of these goddesses, they had, okay, you want to show love and self-love? This is how you do it my way, said Aphrodite. And here's a list. And that was the interesting thing for me, that actually it's not like love and self-love mostly is not an abstract thing. First of all, it's a verb. It's a do thing. And it's so practical. It's a thing that you can do for yourself, is love yourself actively. And there are so many different ways. These archetypes of the Greek goddesses, for me, are windows into one way or a set of ways. It's like if you work with a rainbow and you have all these colors, which by the way are 8, again, 7 or 8 colors. And each color encompasses all these hues of color, and that would be each of the ways that you can show yourself and other people some love and get it. Because as we know, or at least as I know, and I'm sure, I hope you agree with me, that the more we give love, the more we receive love. It's kind of thing, the more I am in the love cauldron, let's put it this way, the more I'm basking in there, the more I get. Also for myself, from me and from the universe and from my friends and family and community. So yeah, when they said you're going to create an oracle deck and it's going to have literally from give yourself an orgasm to create art, and I was like, seriously, I'm going to do that? Spend time with friends, really? And that's what I love about, that's what works for me, is the practical thing, the thing that love is not an abstract thing. And to feel the love, whether you give it or receive it, for yourself or for other people. It's really about being in that cauldron, doing that thing, acting practically on it, and not just, if I stay here in my head and think about love, I don't feel the love. I just think about it. And it's different than feeling it, right? Feeling your emotions, and love can be an emotion as well, but is very different from thinking about them.
Mm. Absolutely, absolutely.
And to not feel alone or unloved by the big shebang of whatever the universe or whatever you want to call it, it's about how do I literally take actions every day or every week around that. At least that's my belief.
Absolutely.
And the Greek goddesses are really good at this human divine love, let's put it this way.
Yeah. Yeah. And so people can get those oracle cards on your website as well?
Absolutely. They can get them either the physical cards or there's a digital version as well, so you can order it from around the world and play with it. But yeah, there's a lot of things on my websites around the Greek goddesses and how they can help you play with with love, and I would say make friends with love, with the idea of love. I created a program last year called 30 Days of Goddess Self-Love. So you get one email a day for 30 days with practical actions of what to do today for showing yourself love. And I remind which goddess it is associated with. There's the Goddess Sundays, there's working one-to-one with me, coming to the retreats. There's many ways that you can work with me and with the goddesses. So many of those are free. I have a YouTube channel, I have blog posts, I have a podcast. Yeah.
So mostly, you have the whole thing.
Yeah, obviously, absolutely. But mostly curiosity about, hey, what can I do? Whether with me or with anyone else.
Yeah, curiosity is key. It's a gateway.
And my motto, and I really want to insist on that one, so I say it every time I talk with anyone. It goes like this: start now, start small, keep going. And if you can find the joy on the way, that's even better.
Thank you so much, Isaya, on
I really
the podcast.
love talking about those goddesses, and I really love talking with you. Thank you very much for your questions and for leading me into this. How can we remember that we are loved through various means? My means is that, but I'm sure anyone can find their own.